Hi everybody, it's Elmarie here again. Um, Today is a bit of overcast, so I'm trying to get the lighting correct. Just hold on a moment. Okay, so we've invited Roxy of African Expressions today. Just waiting for her to join. Really can't wait to talk to this amazing lady. Anyone who has ever knitted in this country knows the brand African Expressions. Most of you will either know Harmony or what's the other one? Adore, or one of the brands. Joy is one of the other ones. Freedom is one of the other ones that has an acrylic blend in it. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk to Roxy, and we'll just be just waiting for her to join. And as soon as she's joined, I'll be back.
Awesome.
Hi, Roxy.
Hi there.
Okay, guys, this is Roxy from African Expressions. Most people won't know you. They will know the brand, but most of the public won't know you at all. Let's begin by telling us about yourself.
All right. So yeah, most of you don't know that I'm behind the brand African Expressions. But I started this position in 2013.
Oh wow, long time.
And yeah. I was actually with Samuel, who makes African Expressions. And before that, I was here 2 years prior, and in the shipping department. So I was guinea pig for testing out the yarns and coming up with some ideas for the marketing team and the sales team. And when the sales consultant back then decided to immigrate, well, my boss just said, well, here you go. We want you in that role. You're familiar with the products. You can knit, you can crochet, you can speak the lingo if needed. You can ask us questions. You can relay the information back to knitters and crocheters in a way that everybody will understand it. Because here we use different terminology, especially with like the thicknesses of the yarn, that most people, I had to learn to understand. But yeah, I've always had a love for crafting. Thankfully, I grew up in a household where creativity was encouraged, and the freedom to actually just try things, be it painting your bedroom a weird and wonderful color, or sitting with some scrap yarn figuring out how can I make something from this. So, and I grew up in a small town just outside PE called Butenay. I think it's changed its name now to Kariga. I don't know. Yeah.
No, this Eitenacher, yeah.
There's always Eitenacher. It's gonna be Eitenacher until I eventually pick. But yeah, that's home to me. My mom still lives out there, so I get to go and drive the beautiful route from PE to Utenay and see the big Volkswagen factory, and then I know I'm home. But yeah, it's been great finding my way with this role. It's definitely been learn on the job, which I find great, and it keeps everything interesting. I didn't go to university after leaving school. I just went straight into the working world and tried a few things, and to me this feels like home. Like the brand says, it feels like home. Well, to me that is it.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Okay, and you still living in PE at the moment?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to commute from within PE, although it's still, with schools being back, you still have to deal with traffic, but nothing compared to Joburg and Cape Town traffic, not at all. I've experienced that. Not for me.
Yeah, I think.
And you're a small town girl. When you go and you visit clients and you have to deal with like hours or traveling like a few kilometers, yeah, this isn't home. I'm not home.
It's not gonna work for you.
Oh goodness. But yeah, I do like the travel in the morning and get to the sea on my way into the office. which always brightens up my day. But yeah.
So tell us about the brand African Expressions. Where did it originate? How did it start? Because a lot of people also don't know that. They just see the label,
Yeah.
but they don't really know where it came from.
Well, it's actually quite a cool story. It started in 2011, and this was brought on by local knitters and crocheters. Don't worry, I've got my cup here.
You're welcome to it.
There we go. So local crafters were saying, okay, well, we want natural fibers, but we know it's produced locally, but none of the spinners are producing it for local clients, for local consumption. So back then, Guillermo, who was our sales manager, and Mandy, who was our brilliant marketing lady, the two of them came up with this idea for something South African. And South Africa is very emotional based, you know, we celebrate hard and we also commiserate together quite, you know, emotionally and heartfelt. So that's where African Expressions, the term, comes from. And the sense of community is also part of that.
Yeah.
And so it started off with 3 yarns in 12 colors each. So joy, harmony, and love were, I want to say, the founding fathers.
Yes.
And those 3 yarns now, from having just 12 colors each, have got 54 colors available.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it has grown in the past 10 years. We're celebrating birthday number 10 this April.
Fantastic.
So, and each year we brought out new yarns, listening to what the market is calling for, asking for, and just trying to also be a little bit ahead, be it ahead with color options or textures that we offer. And each yarn we try and be different. There's only really 2 yarns that are technically the same, but then the compositions are different.
Okay.
So, because some people, the 2 yarns I'm speaking of are joy and freedom. Some people are against mohair because of that old adage that it's an itchy, scratchy, harsh fiber. And some people are legitimately allergic to it.
Yes.
So that's why we have a mohair blend and we've got just the wool blend with the acrylic. So it gives a little bit of options for the double knitters.
It's interesting because the kid mohair, I think people confuse, a lot of people just don't know that there's really a difference between kid mohair and the mohair that they used to grow up with. You know, you specify in most of on your labels that it's kid mohair, and that does make a huge difference.
It does. Back in the old days, we'll go with that term. The farmers used to not really understand the value of their fiber that they were producing. So if they sheared their young goats and their adult goats, which are considerably different in age group, as well as the quality of mohair that they produce, they would just throw it in one big bale and get a lower price because of it containing the adult mohair than if they would actually have to sort that. Nowadays, farmers realize the value in the fiber. So they're taking the time to actually separate. They shear their kids together, they shear the young goats, and then they bring the old guys in. And they actually then take each fleece as well. And they separate the longer stuff from the short. Because your longer fiber is going to give you good money, so good investment there, because spinners are after that. A lot of us in the spinning world, there we go. We can't really get that short staple because it just it doesn't hook unless you've got the specific machinery that can actually spin that. You want the longer fiber because it just makes spinning a lot easier, does half the work for you. So farmers are now realizing, okay, I invest a little bit of time, a little bit of labor into it, I can get a good return back. And that's why the mohair of yesteryear is not the mohair of today. And yeah, we use and source the finest mohair. That's why when I say you can use it against your skin because it is super soft.
It
You know,
is.
it's
I can really attest to that because I've got I said this in the previous episode, I think, when I was talking to Serene, is that I had an episode with mohair that I got as a gift from someone, and I knitted up an entire project. I spun it up because it's lovely to spin with because of the longer staples. And I blended it with merino and I dyed it up and I made this beautiful top, and I can't wear it because it's not kid mohair.
oh
It's going to become a
yeah,
handbag, I think. And that was before I really understood the difference between the two. I think it's really important for people if my winter base, my favorite winter base to dye on is your DK one, and that's got 25% kid mohair, and it doesn't scratch at all. It is,
yeah, exactly.
for me, it is probably the most perfect DK blend because it's really warm. You cannot possibly get cold with
Yeah,
mohair and alpaca and merino blended together, and it's not
absolutely.
scratchy. So yeah,
No,
that's
and
important.
yeah, the sciences that are going behind it, you know, we're getting into the genetics of it to help animals be healthier because they are having to live in the harshest conditions. And at the moment in the Eastern Cape, we are enduring the worst drought that we've had in many a moon. And farmers are having to feed. They're investing in feeding their livestock instead of just letting them run through the pastures and fend for themselves. You know, I've seen photos recently where the land is barren. There's nothing for them to nibble on. They're hiding underneath trees and things. So just to get shelter. And we're realizing that how tough these animals are, and farmers are doing everything they can to make sure that their animals that they rely on for a livelihood. Their farms aren't necessarily first generation. They go back hundreds of years with some of them.
Yeah, I know.
It's in their blood. And the genetic side of things is very interesting that they are working to improve the hair that's produced as well as the health and the resistance that those animals can have to the parasites that are in the area that have flared up because of the drought. You know, we don't realize that the rain also renews plant life, but it also washes away all the horrid little pests that are waiting to make home on these poor little guys, you know. So yeah. But also, you know, we've also had with mohair, we've had a bad rap thanks to Peter. And also their researchers weren't really knowledgeable on what they were actually talking about. So just to put it out there, we do not slaughter the animals when we shear their hair. They literally go, it's like us when we go to the barber or to the hairstylist. They literally get a haircut. They use a similar, the shearing scissors is like a scissor. It's super sharp. That's why the shearers need to be very cautious with how they are handling the animals so that they don't kick out and then all of a sudden snip them.
And
So
if you ever work with a goat or with sheep, you realize it's necessary for them to
yeah,
be sheared. It's not just for the wool. It's really necessary in our climate. You can't leave those sheep or goats without shearing them. What is
exactly.
your on that subject? While we're at it, I've always had this slight conspiracy theory about that specific thing. Why do you think that actually, do you think it was via some sort of competition that investigation happened? Because I was always curious about why did they specifically investigate South Africa?
Yeah. Yeah. There are quite a few conspiracy theories behind that it could be, you know, across the pond trying to, you know, because okay, let's put it this way. South Africa is at the moment the heart of the production of mohair.
Yes.
All right. Especially here in the Eastern Cape. PE is the heart of the mohair production. And I think, you know, when you are holding that title, competitors will come and fight you in dirty, underhanded ways. They won't come at you directly. And or it could just be that Peter had tackled the Angora bunnies, which was cool. They did a good job there by highlighting that practice, but mohair is completely different kettle of fish. We do not pluck anything from the animals. There is no harm because the animals are so valuable, you know. But also they've attacked the dairy industry. They've attacked every industry that humans actually rely on. And when that broke out, that story broke, we were actually in Germany, myself and the two sales managers, and we were attending a trade show. And we were getting all these questions, and it's like, okay, deers in the headlights, we don't know what exactly is happening here. So we took a break from the actual show and we looked at what they were producing. And firstly, the image of the goat that they had wasn't even an Angora goat. It was some other, like a Highland goat or something that lives in the mountains. And all the information that thousands of goats die every year for the production of mohair. No, that is false. Why would farmers want to kill animals that are worth thousands, tens of thousands? You know, if you want to, it's not a meat animal. Nobody wants to eat an Angora goat chopiki because it is as tough as leather. You know, unless you're going to make a good long boiki out of it to soften it, it's not going to be worth your time. So even the leather, it's not a durable leather. It's a soft leather. So not even that would be warranting an animal to lose its life. Unless the animal is ill or has broken a limb that it can't actually be left out in the field, then the farmer will call in the vet and do the humane thing of putting it out of its misery. But then, you know, that is exactly the same way as if your pet animal at home is ill and you can't, it's life or death situation. You're not going to let them suffer. And farmers, you know, they love their goats. I've seen it. I've had the fortunate experience of working with a few of them, and you see how they talk about their goats. It's not just a number on a stock list type of thing. To them, some of them they've even handread, you know, so they've put extra effort, extra hours, lost sleep over them, you know, are they going to make it through? And to me, a lot of people don't realize that it's not a commercial thing, although the production of the fiber is for commercial use, you know, for spinning, for dyeing, manufacture. But the actual heart and soul of the mohair production is very much one-on-one with animals. So yeah, it can be competition. Sorry, Elmarie.
No. Can you just say something with our sound isn't very well at the moment. I can hear it echoing. So please excuse that for anybody who's watching it. We can't really do anything about it. But it's still worthwhile watching this because there's a lot of information that a lot of people just don't have. What I wanted to say, I would actually like to visit those farmers as well. Sometimes Lydia and I do road trips, and I told him I would actually like to go around. We're going to Beaufort, and the Eastern Cape starts just behind Beaufort. Yes. So we're thinking of doing a road trip in the Karoo areas where they work with them, and just to find some of those farmers and just actually do like a vlog or something that people can actually see it, because they hear stuff, but if you don't physically see it, what is interesting for me is that there was this boom of people using mohair.
And that we can thank Peter for. Because before then, nobody was talking about mohair.
Yeah, nobody knew about it.
Any article.
Good publicity.
Absolutely. Any exposure is good exposure, you know, and that I think we can actually thank Mohair South Africa for how they handled that situation. You know, they were proactive in resolving the situation and just putting the facts out there, you know. Yeah, not all farmers farm the exact same way, but with our guidelines that they have to comply with, otherwise they can't sell their fiber on the market, on the auctions. They have to be taking care of their animals. They can't be even storing the food with possible pest control chemicals. You know, they even gone that far as to audit them and make sure that everything's being stored correctly, how they having their goats sheared is done humanely, how they dip their goats to make sure that they don't have fleas and ticks and other pests hiding away in their mohair and infesting the poor animals, you know.
Yes.
They have that supervised. So thanks to Peter, you know, everybody knows a bit more about mohair. Mohair South Africa took the lead there and just put everybody straight. We do not kill them. We love them. You know, they are curious little creatures at the end of the day.
And
we want their fiber.
yes. The other thing I wanted to ask you, on a different note now. Okay, so we've all been through COVID, or we're still in it, but it's like fading now again. And African Expressions is factory based. So how did the pandemic affect you? I know that a lot of people, and this is a very important thing for me to ask, and it's been on my list of asking you, because so many people, the public, don't know the full picture. So they go to a shop and they can't find their product. I know with Saprotex, it was the same thing. You know, everybody wants charity and I can't find my charity, and they're complaining and saying, but it's a bad business. And then sadly, they tend to skip over to the imported stuff. And then they got a bit of a wake up call and they couldn't get the imported stuff anymore either.
Exactly.
So please give a bit of a rundown on how COVID affected you on a factory basis, on workforce basis. I know you said the other day that you were working alone.
Yep.
So how did the pandemic affect you guys?
Well, firstly, we had to gear up our factory as well as our office for bringing back people. You know, it wasn't a normal thing for us to have sanitizing stations. There wasn't before COVID. There wasn't enforcing wearing of masks. You know, and social distancing. South Africans, we like to be social. We like to be gathering groups. Even if it's a smoke break, people want to be there with their mates, you know. If you're trying to resolve an issue in the plant, if the machine isn't working like it should be, a group come together and try and brainstorm a way out. Now we're having to reprogram our minds to say, okay, we can just phone each other, be on opposite ends of the factory. This is a problem. Go look at the machine and go away, and I'll come look at the machine, and we'll try and come up with a new plan. And for us, it was very different. It was a different way of sorting things out. We also had to make a plan for bringing our staff in. You know, before we used to just use quantum buses, everybody per shift in a couple of buses and come to work. Now we're having to, okay, fewer people in the bus, and we need to have different shifts so that we can get people here on time and there's not overcrowded cloakrooms. The factory is safe. Everybody's at a distance, you know. It was quite an adjustment. We've had a number of cases where people had to go for tests. We have only had 2 positive cases or 3 positive cases that were reported, but everybody that had to be tested, they came into contact with someone that was positive, and thankfully they tested negative. But it also then, when we have those situations, it's like, oh, it's real. You know, we all think, oh, it's just a microscopic way of people trying to control us, but it's not. It's a reality that this little germ is somewhere lurking, waiting for us to be negligent and contract it, you know. But yeah, we've had actually lost, I think we're on close to 15,000 working hours of production that we've lost, because whenever we've had people that, you know, we're in contact with positive cases, we've had to close that department and have a sanitizer team come in and spray everything and get everything back to be 100% safe for everyone to return. So with that, you know, you're having to work from home. Our production guys, they can't work from home. They need to be with the machines. So we've had, you know, the case of how do we get things done when nobody's on site? But also with having a month, basically, well, 6 weeks of no production. where it was our peak season, that is when we pushed to the max to get as much out as possible. We're having to play catch up, because while the factory wasn't able to work, we were still making sales. You know, clients can still work from home. Our sales team can still work from home. So we're gathering in the sales, but oh goodness, now we're on the back foot, you know. So as soon as we came back to May, you know, it was all systems go. And yeah, it has been a struggle in trying to maintain that momentum and try and get a little bit of ahead of everything. But it's been phenomenal, the demand for knitting yarns. It has absolutely been a blessing, because we were actually scared that this could cripple the textile industry. And it has had the complete opposite. It has just gone to new heights. It's fantastic. And you know, it's an absolute blessing to be in the situation where the supply just can't meet the demand at the moment. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. Okay, why is it doing that? Okay, I'm trying to figure out why it's echoing like that. It's only echoing like the first couple of lines and then it stops. I think we've had this discussion several times. And you know, I'm far more into a natural fiber than I am with the blends, but I always tell people, if you have to go for a blend, get African expression blends. If you want to go, and I'm very adamant about that, before you ever buy something imported, just when you go to a yarn shop, please check the label. Just see made where. If it says made in South Africa, that's the product you want to go for first. Because, and I mean, that's interesting, because I heard while you were talking, and the way you were talking about the people that work for you and how much you care about them. From your perspective, it must be a very difficult thing when people start focusing on buying imports instead of buying the South African brands made in South Africa. I always say made in South Africa for South Africans, because
Absolutely.
you have real people working for you. You have real people that you are providing an income for. It's not just some fairy tale story. These are real people. You know where they live. You know probably half of their families. You know them. So when I say buy a South African brand, because there's somebody in Port Elizabeth sitting in a factory making a product, then they have to go home and feed their families. How much can you actually vouch for that statement of mine?
That is a very, very true statement. For instance, we had a young fellow here who was 19, 20, 21, sorry. I always thought he was 16. When I saw him, I thought, why are we employing a child to work here? But he was actually 21. And he was actually working here to bring home food and pay rent for his mom and his sister. And, you know, it's when you hear stories like that, where he could be enjoying life, you know, relying on mom to bring home the bacon. But, you know, he took it upon himself to go and find a job and learn. He was so willing to learn everything. Unfortunately, he was caught in a gang initiation. Someone decided to take his life to be part of something cool and not really building the community, but destroying it. But we have so many people here that rely on the little income that they get, you know, to pay for rent, to put kids through schools. We have moms and dads from one family here. We've got sisters. We've got even mom, gran, and daughters working here together. And it is definitely, it feels like a family company. Definitely, everybody is related, and that we all come from the surrounding community. You know, I come from Uteneg. People come from the informal settlements around here, and they come here unskilled. They don't know what mohair is. They don't know what a goat is. Some haven't even been to a local game reserve to even see an elephant up close. So they really haven't been exposed to the world that's around them. But they come here and they learn skills that might take them elsewhere. It might take them to other companies. It might take them to new ventures completely. Or they just stay here and because they enjoy working here and seeing that their efforts are going all the way over to Europe, that they dream of visiting themselves, you know. Or like I was fortunate enough to go to America last year before COVID changed our travel plans. And a lot of them, when they heard that, oh, go and see the Statue of Liberty for us. It's like, yeah, I'm not going there, you know. And are you taking the yarn? Can you please share it with everybody? So it's like, okay, I will do that. That is the plan, you know. So it is great to have a team working with you and like that. That's also passionate about what you do, and it also makes my job a bit easier because I'm actually passionate about what I'm doing and dealing with brilliant clients like yourself, you know. But then you don't have people in the back that have that same passion, but they just come to work for that paycheck at the end of the day. Yeah, our people do have to earn a living, you know, but they also come here to take pride in what they do, and that for us is key. And yeah, I enjoy talking to the people, learning who they are, what brought them to us. You know, a lot of people have been. A few of them have actually been in the textile industry, but from companies that have subsequently closed their doors. So they stayed in textiles because that is what they enjoy, which is fantastic.
So how many of those ladies or gentlemen have learned in this process to actually use the yarn with knitting or crocheting or weaving? Because I would be interested to know how many of them actually, you know, got bitten by that bug.
Well, in our office, we've only got 3 that can knit or crochet. That is sad from a staff of about 25. It is a little bit sad, but in our factory, I think there are about 30 ladies that I know of that do knit, crochet, or do some sort of beadwork or something like that they incorporate the yarn with, you know. So yeah, and unfortunately, I can't get the gentleman to sit down and knit.
I've got 3 gentlemen in my house, and none of them are interested at all. It's interesting because there are countries. I know, for instance, the Sutus. I have had a couple of people. I would always sit with my spin wheel. My spin wheel always travels everywhere with me. I've got a traveling one now, and I will sit and I spin, and it's so interesting because many of the Sutu men will stop. Because in the Sutu culture, spinning and weaving is actually on the male side. They are far more interested, but the South African born and bred lot not really interested. So
no, it's the same. Yeah, in Peru, a lot of the men will knit or crochet. Here, it's still a gender-based role, using yarn in any way, but I'm noticing our textile students, it's more a diverse group, which is fantastic to see that the younger generation, the millennials, are starting to change that stereotype that only women, and it's normally grannies doing the crochet or the knitting, you know. You need to have, okay, I do have some gray hair, but you know, you have to be gray and sitting in a rocking chair knitting. No, it's not that anymore, you know.
And it shouldn't be like that. I had an 8-year-old girl buying a skein of hand-dyed yarn from me, and I asked her, is that for your granny? That's terrible from me, but I thought it was for a grandmother. And she looked at me and she said, no, I knit. So
that is great.
I think one of the good things, let's look at the good things. You said that on your side, the pandemic made your business grow. I've spoken to several other hand dyers and yarn shop owners, and they said the exact same thing. It actually spiked.
Yeah.
So how will we maintain that? Because it's great and everything spiked because nobody had anything to do. any ideas on how we can maintain that? Because it's really, for me, it's an essential thing. You don't know what will happen tomorrow, and it in your personal life, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So if tomorrow you sit in a situation where you have no income or nothing to do, you have your pension and you have absolutely nothing to do with yourself, and you want to do something extra, you're going to need those skills. So how do you think we can go about to maintain that new idea of, oh, okay, I remember I can crochet, I can knit, weave,
I,
whatever.
I think being in the state of lockdown, where we were looking at the same four walls for 6 weeks. In some areas, they were still in lockdown. You know, the movement of people is still very much restricted. And I think in South Africa, we've been fortunate enough to only have suffered one level 5 lockdown. And we, out of sheer boredom, people are like, okay, I need to do something. Let's go onto YouTube, or let me phone up Gran and say, okay, remember that time I didn't want you to teach me how to knit or crochet? Okay, we're going to try this video call thing, you know. And if I had friends phoning me, okay, I'm so bored, I'm willing to learn to knit. And I think a lot of people have actually found that their hand knitting, or their craft, let's put it that way, their handcrafts, have actually kept them sane through this confusing roller coaster of a pandemic. And I don't think it's going to be gone anytime soon. I think it is a wake-up call for humanity to, you know, change the way that we're actually living. We've been living in a very consumerist type of lifestyle, and everything's instant, everything must be done now. Where when you're doing a little bit of a knitting project or a crochet project, it's not instantly gratifying. Like, especially if you're knitting a cardigan, you're not going to be wearing it the very next day. You know, you're going to be working on it for a couple of weeks at
Unless you
least.
use a knitting machine.
Even in knitting machine, you got to sit there and move that thing, you know, back and forth. Not what I thought. You just press a pedal and it does all the work for you. But I think for us going forward, we need to maintain the the exposure. We need to be creating that demand. You know, being on social media has helped everybody, because when you're really bored, you just want to be scrolling through inspirational images. So Instagram, there's your spot. You don't have to read anything. Images will speak to you. If you do find, okay, that first few lines of the post, okay, that intrigues me, let me read on. And what I've tried to do with the African Expressions social media is try and be a little bit inspirational. We're all sitting in this case of what if. What if I lose my job tomorrow? What if the world comes to an end? You know, Armageddon's here. COVID's just the start of it, you know. And we can't live in looking at the glass half empty. We've got to look at, excuse me, let me just unvibrate that. We've got to look at the glass half full and look at every opportunity. So that's what I've been trying to help our followers try and get through this time. And even by coming up with little projects, or finding a fun little simple lace pattern that took off greater than I ever thought, where I actually had to do a how to do it. And I think it's just building on the sense of community that we need to all look at, you know, sharing that knowledge. If I can share like a stitch pattern, for instance, to someone, that could inspire them to create something new, or might cause a young 8-year-old to think, okay, I can design something cool with that I can make for a friend, and then start a little mini side business. Who says you can't be a little entrepreneur at the age of 8? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. You know, and I think we need to be adapting to the changing world. We can't be using the same how-tos from yesteryear now, because it's not the same world. We need to adapt constantly. We need to see how we can be a little bit proactive, you know. And I think the South African yarn community had really done fantastic during this time.
Yes.
by doing online courses and using technology in our favor, which is brilliant. I love the ingenuity, and it's really inspiring to see everybody coming up with new ways, using the same tools, but coming up with different ways of doing things, which is fantastic. You know,
That's
and
what
I
I
think South
wanted to
Africa,
add is just to say that, you know, the old stuff that you thought was your granny stuff, I'm not going to, but if you actually go and search for that old stuff, I mean, you'll see these over here. This is my aunt's stuff. And if you go look back at the way they did things, and you take the concept and you redo you take the concept, but you modernize the concept, then you have a new product, a fresh product, but you can still go back to the old information to use as a almost a foundation for what you want to do. And there is so much information out there. It was interesting because you look at the new patterns that are being designed, and I look at it and I think, you know what, I think my granny used that stitch somewhere. Actually, not my granny, my aunt used that stitch, and you're just using that exact stitch in a different pattern. And to look at what's, if you want to start a business, I think that's what you guys do as well. That's what you talked about, the colors. I think you look at the current trends and you say, okay, these colors will be more popular this year. I know a lot of the people look at the what's that color of the year thing? I don't know if you guys.
Yes, Pantone. Pantone brings out a color of the year. Yeah.
You actually look at that.
Yeah, we do, because we have to set our commercial catalogs and trends in accordance. We need to be actually a bit ahead. We need to be 2 years ahead of the market in predicting what colors are going to be in demand.
So what's this year's color of the year?
It is a beautiful yellow and like a dove gray. They do have specific names. I'm just using general terms. I know it's something like ultimate gray or something like that. They're beautiful. That's what everybody's now wanting yellow and gray for. We just can't keep up with those colors at the moment. Well, I do have a yellow teacup, but I've had this for a while.
Yeah, but that's unfair, because you can actually wear yellow. You can get away with yellow. I can't. Yeah. This is the closest I can get to wearing yellow. No, actually, I can use yellow, but I can't use it against my skin. It doesn't work for me. So it's a bit frustrating for me in the shops at the moment because it's beautiful. I just can't wear it. And I think that's the fantastic thing. I mean, I'm looking at the colors behind you right now, and I'm thinking, you know, that may be the color of the year, but you always have the other colors available as well. That will be the focal point, but it's not the only thing you have available. You always have the entire range available.
Exactly, and we've got over 500 colors available, so there is something for everyone's taste. And you know, color is a personal preference. It's just because Pantone's saying, okay, these two colors are colors of the year, doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to toss out the entire wardrobe and just have yellow and gray. You know, you can incorporate that in your design, like your scarf has got multiple colors in it. Yes, you can incorporate you can incorporate the it colors or the trend colors in a design, you know, and people don't really want to experiment with color. And that's the great thing about craft in general, be it painting, be it knitting or crochet. You are painting with color, no matter what medium you're using. And I'm going back to when we were talking about the new patterns that are coming out. A lot are going into the fair isle patterns, which are an old technique that is being brought back to life, and using various colors and stitches and just painting a beautiful wearable piece of art, you know.
Yeah, that's I love that. I love color work. I've done quite a few beanies, and I'm still struggling. I'm busy with a t-shirt with color work. And the most interesting thing about that is, that's like a sidebar now, but the interesting thing about that is I can do a beanie without a problem. I've knitted socks, Farrell socks without an issue, no
Also,
problem somehow. When it comes to a sweater, I'm like halfway through the color work and I freeze up. So I promised myself this time, it doesn't matter how long it takes, but you're finishing this color. So I have to say that's one of the things that I love about your brand is that it really does cater for just about everybody. And on my side as a hand dyer, none of my two colors look the same. I can hardly ever, most of my colors are one of a kind. I can, like the tonals, I can sort of say, okay, I'll do another tonal, but the next batch isn't going to look exactly like the previous batch, but it's going to be the same color. And a lot of people still want, if they make a sweater, it to be one solid color, which is where your brand comes in. Just to explain that to anybody that's not understanding what I'm saying, it is a machine dyed product, which makes it ideal for anybody who wants a solid color in their product. And there are many people that prefer it that way. My aunt is one of them. But it's not only the older people. I've noticed that the younger people as well, they don't want it's a personality thing in
yeah,
many instances. And also when you are a knitter to sell, if you knit to sell, the safe option is always to use a solid color, because if you buy a shop bought item, that item won't be variegated yarn or speckled yarn. It will be a solid color. So if you're making something to sell, then it will definitely be better to buy African expressions that's one solid color. You have
yeah.
had
And they're also
no, go ahead.
they're 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 even though we are doing commercial dyeing where we use the huge vats to dye 20 kilos at a time, if you do mix two different dye lots, you are going to see a slight color variation, and that is purely because of the nature of the fiber. But if you're using from the same dye lot, your garment will have that continuity, and it is purely because we are competing with the retail outlets that have the commercially produced knitwear, that the hand knitters are now having to compete with. And there is that expectations with consumers that a hand knitted thing can be exactly the same as a commercially knitted garment. To a point, yes, and to a point, no. Anything that's handmade is going to be unique, be it with a slight stitched variation, or even the color won't be exactly the same as what, for instance, Woolworths has got on their shelves.
Yeah.
It's going to be subtly different. And that's the great thing about supporting a hand knitting business, is that you're wearing something that's unique. It might look like the next chap's jersey, but it's not. It's different shape. It has been made from possibly a different dye lot from the next jersey, and that makes it great and adds that extra value to it.
Yes, I agree. And if we can get to the point that when I was talking to Serene yesterday, and I often get to this subject because it's something that's very close to my heart. The yarn industry is a competitive business. It is competitive. It does sadden my heart, though, that people get competitive to the point of being nasty and breaking each other down instead of building each other up. And in our conversation yesterday, we actually talked about the fact that competition is good. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And also about people referring other people, because in my shop, I have these products. If I don't have these products, I'll refer you to another yarn shop. How do you experience that type of competitiveness? Does it affect you at all, or is that easier for you on your side?
Well, for us, we're not just competing locally, we're competing internationally. So it is a lot tougher, but I agree with you. Competition is good. It keeps us on our toes. It keeps us being more innovative in our ideas and our approach to the industry.
Mm.
Yeah, if I don't have something that a knitter or crochet is looking for, or even a retailer, if I don't have something that they are particularly looking for, I will send them to our competitor who's in Utneg, or to even like Sapratex, I'll send them there. We don't do 100% acrylic, or we don't have the charity yarns or anything close to that. So I'll say, well, here you go, talk to them. You know, I don't mind referring people at all, because I do have my clientele that are loyal to the brand. But like you say, a little bit of kindness doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't chip away at your soul in any way, you know. And I think people are appreciative even if you share a little bit of the information with them. I have people asking for weaving looms or even weaving lessons, for hand dyeing lessons or anything like that, anything in our industry. And say, okay, I'm not going to just refer one person. I'm going to give you some options, because the first option on my list might not even be in your area, and you might want to actually have one-on-one conversations with them. So I will share any information with my clients or potential clients. You know, I'll help out wherever I can, because to me, we should be looking at the community at large, not just protecting myself. You know, yeah, people do get a little bit underhanded and try and, you know, bring down people. Sorry, that doesn't fly for me. That's not who I am.
Good.
I will rather reach out. I rather reach out and lend a helping hand. You know, I won't kick dirt in your face if you're down. I'll help pick you up. You know, and yeah, our industry is so small in South Africa. We've got to help each other out. It's not going to help anything if we are fighting one another. Honestly,
Yeah.
like we deal with African yarns. You know, they also have beautiful yarns, but they aren't competing with us. No, they are in the same industry as us, and we can't be fighting with the local guys. I'm sorry, it's not going to help us. It's not going to help our economy. We've got to be working together for the greater good of the industry.
Yes, I agree with you, because that's one of the reasons that I'm actually doing these meetings, so that
Yeah,
I think we sometimes live in our own little planet, and we, you know, it's my world, it's my business, it's me, and I mean, that's the truth on the one hand, because it is your business and you do need to promote your own stuff and you do need to grow in your business. And um yeah, you can't just, you have to see it as a business, but you also need to understand that this business side of South Africa is really fragile. It's a very fragile industry, and if we are not going to support each other and sort of be pillars of support for each other in this industry will fail. And
exactly.
when I started out, it was really, and I told you this before, it was really because of the shock that I realized that almost everything in a commercial yarn shop is an import, and people are
Yeah,
buying imports. And when I opened my shop, I have people phone me and ask me, "Do you sell your wool?" I would say yes. What do you want? Do you have lollipop? And I would say, you know what, I don't have acrylics, number one. Number two, I do not ever stock imports. I don't want to stock imports. I had a small batch of Himalaya, which is an excellent import, by the way. It's an excellent yarn. But it just,
beautiful yarn.
I promise you, it just scratched me so much. I don't want imports. Because I realized if we don't support each other in this country, then we will be completely flooded with imports, and all of our yarn is being exported. Now I'm talking to somebody who exports.
Yeah,
I know you export, but you don't export and at the same time not take care of South Africa in itself. So I think
absolutely.
maybe I can ask you that last question because I don't even know how long you've been talking. No idea. In terms of local versus export, what is your stand on that? Is because I know exports on your particular side of the industry is a necessity. It's not even you have to export. I mean, you have to keep the business going, so that's fine. If you have an export, and I know a lot of the indie dyers started exporting as well, that's fine. But what is your take on taking care of the South African market versus exporting?
Well, firstly, to me, no matter what size business you're running, if you are at home and you're ordering one pack once a year, let's put it that way, to me, you are still as valuable as someone that is ordering a couple of 100 kilos at a time. To me, it makes no difference what size business you're running. To me, the brand African Expression started because of the South African market. And to me, that is where we need to be looking and nurturing. You know, if we're not looking after our local clients, then what's the point? You know, yeah, making yarns in South Africa for South Africans is key. That to me, we can't overlook that, because then that's pointless. Then we're just going to end up having more imports and us exporting and relying then fully on exports to make an income. So it doesn't make sense. You know, we started this brand 10 years ago for the localnesses to give them quality natural fiber yarns, and that's what we are striving to do. I might say we are grateful to the retailers that have come on board, to the hand dyers that have also come on board, and to the knitwear manufacturers that have found value in our products. We have grown the client base from, I think it was just over 90 clients when I started 8 years ago. We're now close to 400. Yes, that includes about 10 export clients, but it's massive how the local market has demanded natural fibers. And you know, natural fibers isn't just from four-legged animals, which we call the noble fibers. You know, there is a brilliant market and suppliers of cotton yarns, and there is a need and a purpose for every yarn out there in the market, be it the exports, be it imports, be it 100% acrylics. There are uses and purposes for every yarn, you know. And I often get questions: can I use love to make carpets? Well, you can. You're just going to need a lot of it. Work together, and don't have any puppies around that you're having to potty train. Then you're all good. But every yarn has got its purpose in life, and that makes this industry even more exciting, and gives every industry, every supplier and producer part of the pie. It's not just African Expressions or Samel taking the whole pie. You know, it's all for us. No, we're going to take one little sliver because the hand dyers need their piece. You know, the cotton guys need their piece. Separatex and their brilliant brand of a range of brands actually that form part of their offering have another piece. And silken yarns come in as well, you know. And then you've got your export guys that fill the gap where we can't locally produce anything, like the yak fibers or different blends of alpaca, for instance. We can do our bit, but you know, the importing of fibers is sometimes required because locally we can't produce it. But yeah, we do look after the local guys, and we support local festivals as well. I am very saddened that we haven't been able to have the second fiber festival. Was it fiber? Yarn festival. Had to find my brain there. And yeah, that was great to see so many people in the natural yarn industry, be it cotton, bamboo, hand dyers, you know, the commercial producers, all coming together under one roof with a common goal of spreading the knowledge, firstly, of the fibers, as well as the produce that we are taking the time and hours painstakingly producing, you know, that for me was inspirational. And that is kudos to Gina and Carle for putting that brainchild to life, you know. To me, that was fantastic.
I
Hopefully
think
we'll
you'll
be having one soon.
probably have another one somewhere in this year. I believe so. I also think Quinty Alpaca will probably do their yearly one in September. At the moment, I think they were thinking of doing it in April because they couldn't do one last year, but it's still too up and down here at the moment. So I think by the end of the end of the year, things will start because the markets have started opening up again. You know, people can go to the normal markets.
Yeah.
But yes, that's good to hear because a lot of people have so many misunderstandings. You talked about the pie pieces, and I would love to see that the say majority of the pie just belongs to South African manufacturers, and maybe like a tenth of the pie belongs to imports. I it they there is a there I agree with you completely. There is a place for imports as much as there is a place for exports. And we've had this conversation before. I don't say don't import, and I'm not saying don't buy imports. But for a long time now, well, not, I think it started changing the last, say, 2 or 3 years. And a lot of that has been about, I think, South African hand dyers also making a fuss about stuff because it became so difficult for us to just buy in any yarn, and then you're a small little company and you have to close. And that has changed, thankfully. And a lot of people, I think, when that sort of system came in, a lot of people turned to you guys. A lot of the hand dyers turned to you. And that was also a good thing because a lot of the hand dyers didn't even know about you call it SAML. I just call it SML. But okay. Didn't know about you guys. So I think that opened another door that was closed for a while for most of us that are really small hand dyers, and it sort of opened again now. And so there's a good thing that's come out of it. If we can get to a point where we say, okay, at least the public know, they know that one is local. Because I promise you, it's the scariest thing that you will have people ask you for the blue label yarn in your shop, and you ask them, do you know where that comes from? And they don't. They really just don't. It's cheap and it's available. And when I opened up shop in the beginning, when I started with Moya, that's like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I had emails coming in like once a month from China. Will you please stock our yarns? Don't know how they got my email. And I think that for me is a big no-no, and I understand there are also areas in this country, and this is like speaking against my own gender type of situation, yeah. But I have seen that there are areas in this country where a yarn shop will completely abuse the fact that they have monopoly in that area. And they will up the prices to really sky high prices. And then another little place opens up and they've got blue label yarn. So that will automatically mean people will go to buy the imports, Yeah. I think on our side, we also need to take that into account. Be responsible.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And that comes back to sharing the information. You know, we need to do our part in educating consumers of where products that they are purchasing comes from. And if they are supporting local brands and hand dyers, they are supporting the guy down the street to have an income, you know. And yeah, we're supporting companies overseas that are supplying jobs for their staff there. But here, you know, we are struggling with a recession. You know, we are struggling with a dying economy. We need to do what we can to bring some life back into it, you know. And if we are supporting, you know, foreign businesses, we are actually taking money from the local guys, from their mouths, and giving it to the export guys that have got other markets that they are relying on. You know, they're not just relying on South Africans purchasing their products. They're supplying globally, where, you know, most of the small local stores that are perhaps stocking African expressions or Saprotex, or, you know, some of our local hand dyers, they don't realize, okay, if I spend a little bit extra on this ball of yarn, it's actually helping someone in a rural community to actually put food on the table. And I think we do live in a world where we have to look at the price tag. Unfortunately, not all of us are privileged enough to just swipe the card, you know, go on a spending spree and just be oblivious to what things cost. We are very much focused on, if I buy this ball for 50 Rand, okay, what am I going to be sacrificing? You know,
Yes.
so sometimes you just have to like squirrel away some extra cash for your hobby, or what I call yarn therapy. You know, it's worth it, because unfortunately we do spend a lot of time on projects, and you want to be using a fiber or a yarn that's going to be lasting a lifetime. And that's where natural fibers come into play. You might have to hand wash at times just to make sure that your garment is going to look as new when it is 20 years old. You know, take that time to look after your knitwear. But in the long run, it's going to last you forever. You look after it. Where, yeah, you can buy a 17 Rand ball of acrylic, but is it going to last you as long? It's going to get all those little pling knobs on it and all that, and it's going to look like something that you just bought off the rack, you know, and it's not going to have that longevity. So knitwear, or shall I put it rather, natural fibers is an investment, but it's an investment that's going to give back throughout its life, throughout your life even. Because I know I've got a moire blanket that is eons old. It's older than me, you know, so they do last forever.
Yes,
and it's all about it.
But let's go to my one last question, because we really have to, I think we're like past an hour now. One last question. I know that, I don't keep track of days and festivals and stuff like this. That I know Mandela Day is coming. I think it's Heritage Day. Okay, so that is yes. You're also thinking like, when is that?
Like,
for me,
when is it?
one day. I think since last year, it's always been like that for me, but since last year, it's even worse. It's these days just sort of fade into each other. It's like it's Friday, and geez, I thought it's Monday, you know. But that is quite a large charity event. And I know a lot of the companies do get involved with it. Are you getting involved with it? And if you are getting involved with it, how are you getting involved with it?
Well, we get a lot of donation requests for people that are knitting the squares for Mandela Day. We've got such a small staffing that actually knit or crochet that it will take us a month of Sundays to try and even gather up enough squares for one blanket. So we rather give to those that can make full use of the yarn to actually help others, you know. And we do that throughout the year. It's not just for Mandela Day, and that is our way of giving back. Locally, we actually did gather some pet food for our local charities here, just to give back to those that can't speak for themselves, and also being, involved in agriculture. Animals are very close to all of our hearts here. And, we do our little bits that we can to help the community around us. But yeah, we rather give to those that can actually make better use of the yarns. And it's normally stuff that's been rejected that we can't actually sell to clients. And it's nothing wrong with it. It's just off spec type of thing. And then they make use of it. And it rather have that than have it be sitting gathering dust and, just being part of the furniture type of thing. So that's how we get involved in actually helping out the community. And yeah, doing our little bit.
Okay, cool. Well, now people know that as well. I think a lot of people would have liked to hear that, simply because a lot of people are involved with that type of project. But also, like in my case, in Worcester, we have what, 3 old age homes. 2 of them are like in town, and the other part is that we also have a blind institute, which I think you guys do supply to them. I'm not sure. Yeah, the blind.
I think we have done. Yeah.
Yes, but that's the thing with rural areas, is sometimes they specifically that specific shop, and I'm not talking against them because I get along very well with them. They will buy in what will sell in that specific setup. So they've got a lot of people, elderly people there, and they've got blind people. So they focus mostly on that type of market. So if they start buying in something and it just doesn't sell, then they kick it out very, very quickly. They don't really give it a very long chance, put it that way. They won't give it another chance or another chance because their market is very set. It's a very definite market. But yeah, anyway, they do have a lot of charity, not them so much because they've got the yarn shop, but on the deaf side, there are a lot of people that are multiple, now I can't get to the word. They're not just deaf. Some of them are deaf and blind. Yes.
Yeah.
And some of them are physically challenged that they can hardly move, or they also, there's a multiple of things going on. So I think for that, anything that can be gifted. My aunt does jerseys for the children's homes, the orphanages. And there are a lot of people that do that. So I think it's good to know that if somebody has run out of options and they are still busy knitting for that type of things, that they can contact you. You have the full right to say no, though. So I just want to have that full disclaimer. They do have.
We don't have anything to give. We can't give.
Yes, and also if you're going to knit something, and I just want to say that as well, if you're going to knit something, say for a children's home, using scraps of harmony is not a good idea. No, because they don't know how to work with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Normally, well, I deal with the donation fulfillment. So if you tell me exactly what you're working for, and most people that come on, that's part of their donation request, you got to basically say exactly what organization you are working for, what are you going to be knitting up. Then also that gives us a bit of an idea, or gives me an idea of what to actually put forward, go to management and say, okay, I'm going to need sort of these yarns that are available for donations. Can I give it to this organization? This is what they're planning to use it for. And based on that, it will get a yay or a nay, So yeah, you can't be using harmony if you're going to be this for little people. No, that's just it's going to get ruined.
You're going to end up with a toy, a little doll jersey at some point.
Yeah.
Because the people doing the laundry aren't going to know any better. It's going to end up in a washing machine and a tumble dryer. So, the Barbie doll may have a jersey, but the kid won't.
Or a cute little teddy will have a smashing nice, knitted cardigan on, you know. So it has happened. It has happened.
Well, it happened to me. So.
I've had a good few queries. My jersey shrunk. What did I do wrong? Was any heat involved? Be it in the wash or tumble dryer? Yes. Well, there's your problem.
And it says on the label, it does say on the label, do not tumble dry. It says so. It says hand wash, lay, dry flat, do not tumble dry. But yeah.
But most of us, you know, you're half asleep when you're trying to do the last minute laundry. So you just pick up the pile and you just throw it into the thing, and then only like halfway through the cycle is like, did I just pick up the cardigan? Oh no. And you run and it's all ruined already. You know, don't even bother. Just close the tumble dryer door and step away.
Yes, and sometimes I heard that. I have had 2 felted knitted tops. One was actually like a sweater, and the other one is just the tank top. The other and one that was very, very sad to me was a pair of socks.
Oh.
Yes. And exactly that happens is it's come to the point now where I've got a lady that comes and cleans my house once a week because I'm a terrible housewife. I really am. I'm open about that. And she comes and she cleans once a week, and I've come to the point now where I tell her anything that's in that bin does not go into the washing machine. I will wash this by hand. Please don't touch that. And she's a very intelligent woman. She's a Zimbabwean she was busy studying. She wanted to be a teacher, and she couldn't finish her studies because there was no money to do it. And we've known each other for 12 years now. She's been part of my life. And it literally took me putting the hand knits into one basket and telling her not to touch it at all. And I was just as guilty. I think the one sweater was my own fault, because exactly as you say, you grab the laundry and you stick it in the washing machine. No, it's very bad.
No,
very bad.
Accidents do happen.
Listen, Roxy, it was really lovely talking to you. I think we started talking at 10. It is now 11:15. As usual, it's fantastic chatting to you. It was so nice to do this one-on-one. I keep watching you, and then I look at myself, and then I look at you, and then I realize, but I'm getting redder and redder by the minute. I think this cardigan is getting too hot. But on our side, it's really actually cold outside. So we're starting to get rain now. So we're praying for you guys on your side for rain, so that the farmers, you know, I know there's a lot of farmers. I know the farmers on that side, and they're really struggling. So we're trusting you guys will get your rain and enjoy your day.
Awesome. Have a great one too.
And I hope you too.
Have a good one. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
You don't have to do everything on your own. Have a lovely day, and it's been great chatting to you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Likewise. Thanks, Elmarie. Have a good one. Cheers.